What is up, everyone? I'm Jeff Lund, and this is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast, coming to you from a blustery Sunday morning in Ketchikan, Alaska, as per usual. Definitely got the feel of spring coming on, though. Yesterday was a beautiful day. It felt like 51 degrees, apparently, according to the internet, which takes into account the actual temperature, and then calculates some other things, I think relative humidity, maybe some wind, and comes up with a different number. So even though it's 45, it feels like 51, precisely 51, which is, I don't know. Down south, you see that a lot in the weather. They've now switched the number, the big number on the screen when you're talking about the weather. The big number that they show is the feels like number. It used to be like it's 95, but feels like 105. Now it's like feels like 105, but it's actually 95. So you could get into some sort of conspiracy theory about how that's what meteorologists or news organizations are doing in order to spread further the fear of climate change. Which, it's kind of weird. Things like that are like distracting details from a real problem, because we got a problem with pollution. We got a problem with the amount of resources we have for the amount of people in the world. We have a problem with regards to what happens to what we recycle when we send it. Where do we send it, and does it actually get recycled? A lot of real problems that we should probably address, and we get caught up with these distracting sort of conversations that are just it's not really at all beneficial. We can all probably get behind cleaning up, keeping things nice, but when we get distracted on these very divisive sort of issues, and you have the person who's actually, oh man, I hate that stuff. But it makes it that much more important, and that makes me that much happier to live in a place where you can get away from that so easily. And I'm looking out my window right now, and I'm watching hemlock and cedar trees just blow in the wind. We don't have a block here. Just like these houses are cut into the forest, and so you're just in the forest. I'm looking at trees, man. People don't get to do this. This is like where people go away to. You know, you go up to your cabin in the mountains when you spend a weekend, or you spend the summer or something like that. But living in a spot like that is awesome. It just kind of insulates you from a lot of that negativity that you can't escape if you're somewhere else. If you have to drive somewhere, you have to take a long vacation to get somewhere cool, I don't know if you can get rejuvenated as much. It's harder to live the brochure if you don't live right there. On my way to work, I can go on a hike around a lake. I can fish a river. It's on the way to work. And then if I want to go to bed or stuff, it's a little bit longer drive. I can take my boat out and things like that. And one of the conversations around town a little bit is the coronavirus, and at what point it's going to get to Ketchikan, because it will at some point. Whether it shows up as just the newest kind of seasonal flu type thing that the rest of the world has kind of figured out this is what it is, and we accept it, or if it continues to be everything that the media is making it out to be. And I don't really blame the media, because the media has to report it. Like, it's the story. You can't avoid it. You got to talk about it. So then if you're in the media, you're overhyping it, or you're making a big deal out of it when it's only just maybe a worse version of the flu. Well, you got to report about it. You can't pretend it doesn't exist, because then it's like, why are they not talking about it? And why is this government not? Yeah, crazy. But yeah, you get freaked out about stuff. You read it, and you can't escape. So even though Ketchikan's on an island, I'm sure it's going to get here either when people come back from spring break, or this summer with the cruise ships. And people are wondering what's going to happen with the cruise ships. Are there going to be fewer people going on cruises in Alaska? Or are there going to be the same amount of people? Because people who were going to go on cruises in Asia will come to Alaska instead. Are there overly paranoid people who fear becoming quarantined on a cruise ship? Probably. But I think a lot of people are going to just kind of go about their plans as usual. Wash your hands, and if you get it, you get it, because this does sound like a little bit worse case the flu. But there's like 80. I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal. They have a little graphic here. It says tracking the coronavirus. And there's according as of the 29th, there were 86,000 infections, 43,000 still infected, 39,000 have recovered, and there's close to 3,000 deaths. So there's a lot of people who are recovering. I like to hear from those people, right? The recovered people. Like, it was the flu. Yeah, I didn't feel any different. It was the flu. Or, it felt worse. Yeah, talk to some recovered folk. I wanna hear from them. But that also makes it, if that was your trip, you looked forward to getting out of where you live, because it's not quite, you need a vacation, you need a break from where you live, and you were going to come on a cruise to Alaska, or you were going to go on a vacation somewhere that was cool, like I said, to get away from where you live, then that kind of tells you a little bit about where you live. If you live in a spot that you need a vacation from, or you need a break from, but then you can't go because of fears of or your travel plans change because of the coronavirus or whatever, and that's kind of unfortunate. You spend your entire year waiting for that 1 week where you get away to get rejuvenated and get refreshed, and then if you can't go, that's kind of rough. That's kind of rough. Living a place where you can have easy access to the brochure and you can actually live the brochure, that's quality. That way you're not spending your entire day recreating on social media or recreating on online, looking at all the things that are going to be a detriment to us, and you're not getting all of your self-worth based on the candidate in the party that you hope wins the presidency. Because what happens if it doesn't win? What happens if your party loses? Then what? Are you going to be miserable? What do you do? I tell you what, it's hard to think about politics when you're out on the water. It's pretty much the last thing from my mind as I'm hiking a mountain, or as I am walking on a lake, or I'm fishing or hunting. The last thing in my mind is concerned over these people who are making me promises about what they're going to do if they become president, how they're going to fix all these problems for everybody else.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Which I think there is something that you can learn from these candidates. All the candidates have fixed things for themselves and they're doing extremely well. Maybe that's what we take from them, right? Because they are all doers and successful people in some respect, which is why they have what they have. They're all millionaires or billionaires, right? So it's kind of weird that if you call millionaires and billionaires the enemy, and yet they are the enemy, I don't know. This doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not really smart. Anyway, so getting outside, man. It's so important. The spring area, it's just that, the season of symbolic rebirth. But man, I can't wait to get on some of those other rivers, because the winter steelhead fishing is fine. You can pick up some fish, but the spring, when you have those longer days and the tolerance for the weather, it's a little bit warmer, and so you can stand. You don't have to be out there for a little bit until you get freezing cold, come back to shore, and either light a fire or kind of jump around a little bit to get the blood flowing again. It's nice to be able to, or make some coffee. it's nice to be able to just fish the heck out of, fish your brains out all day. Camping weather, and then you got spring bear, and you got grouse, like all that stuff. Spring is so unbelievably. It's not underrated, but there's so much to do here. It's not just waiting around until August. I know a lot of people post about can't wait for one day closer to August 1st, but man, there's a stinking lot of year between now and then. And even though the some of the bottom fish or the rock fish fishing is closed down in southeast for the year, and who knows about the king return or whatnot, but you can still spend those nice long afternoons and evenings after work trolling for kings, man. How do you beat that? How do you beat that? There is a difference, too. If you happen to be out there and you are trolling for kings in the spring, or you're glassing a beach for black bear, whether or not you're going to hunt them or not doesn't really matter. You might talk some politics, but it's a little bit different when you're out there doing something that's a lot of fun. It doesn't kind of take over. If you just scroll through social media, man, it's just the stuff that's out there, and we become suckers to. We just share it. Some of the stuff is crazy because it doesn't take a debunker to look at some of these posts and think, dude, that's not good. Yeah, it's incorrect. It doesn't take someone to really figure that out, but we just fall into that. It's like we have nothing else to do. That's why it's so important, man, to have hobbies. Have hobbies other than get people elected. I'm excited for the spring. Excited also in 2 weeks to go down to California, to the old rivers, the stomping grounds when I lived in California. I did a lot of fishing on the Upper Sacramento River. That's kind of where I really kind of dialed in the fly fishing thing. I had one of those days that makes something new stick. On the Upper Sac, the water was really high, and my buddies and I had been fly fishing for a couple of years, and I went up there and hooked a couple of really big brown trout, and it landed them too, and then rainbows. And I thought, oh man, you get that early confidence because you figure something out enough, and you're not just being rewarded with the dumbest, hungriest little fish. You start catching some of those bigger fish that the river's known for, and you think, oh dude, yeah, we're doing this now. And then you start to break down the river differently, and you learn and improve. And this is something that when I was in high school, I thought fly fishing was the stupidest thing in the world. I never fly fished because you look like an idiot. What are you doing? Why are you making it more difficult? The goal of fishing is to catch a fish. Why would you make it more difficult? So, what do you know when you're in high school, right? You think you're smart, but really, you don't know what you're doing, right? You have some semblance of an idea, but then things change, right? Can you imagine if you made all of your decisions and you didn't change your mind after high school? That's crazy. That's absolutely asinine to think that you are at the best position to make life decisions when you're 16, 17, and 18. That's why when you go to college, you take a lot of different classes, and those classes that are, you don't think that you like or you're not really sure, it exposes you to something that you ordinarily might not be excited about. And then you find out, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. You might not want to go into, make it your major, go into a career, but you at least expose yourself to it. Different ideas, right? Grow the brain. Like I don't. This whole idea of I don't need to know this, and I remember when I was in high school, I kind of said that too. But it's the principle. Now people are like really going out of the way to argue. Let's just specialize, and high school is for figuring out. Is for broad curriculum, and in college you shouldn't have to waste your time with gen eds. Are you kidding me? You don't know anything. Your frontal lobe isn't even fully developed yet. You think you're going to just make those decisions and you can just... Oh, man, it's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't even hunt until 2013. I didn't start hunting until I was in my 30s. It's just... There's so many new things out there. If you think you have everything figured out by the time that you're 18, 19, 20, which you do, but as far as like... other habits and things. It's crazy. There's so much great stuff out there, and if you just stay where you are and do what you do, you got to expand, man. You got to see stuff, and you got to expose yourself to opportunities to do new things, because that routine of doing the same thing, man, it's not good. Ironically, I'm going to talk about travel, right? Because I just said live in a place where you don't have to vacation from, but traveling is great to go do stuff. But also, if you do have those productive habits, like fishing or hunting or hiking or those sort of things, they can take you to really interesting places around the world, around the U.S. So it's not just go there and just see the monument thing and go in these very sterile type areas. You can kind of exist, and you can go travel, and you can live the most of wherever it is that you go and travel to. But also, you can get the most out of where you live. You live in a pretty spot. It's pretty to look at. It's great. But if it's a pretty spot to look at that has trout to catch, if it's a pretty spot to look at that also has trout to catch, that also has good hikes, if it's a pretty spot to look at and has trout and has good hikes, and you can also hunt, man, you just get so much more out of it. Because you have 24 hours, and you fill those days, you have a certain amount of energy. And so if you fill those days with energy put toward thinking about the next fishing trip, the next hunting trip, the next whatever it is, then the less amount of time you're going to spend in distraction, because your brain needs something, right? It needs some form of entertainment, and you have energy. And so if you just spend all of that energy angry online, it's terrible. It's terrible. People get mad, get angry. That's not good. Anyway, so we're going to call that this episode, or whatever episode we're on here. I think it's 131. Make sure you check out themediocrealaskan.com for the content, and get outside. Enjoy the spring. It's on the way. Resist the temptation to argue about stuff that do not matter online. There are certain things that do matter. Things that are important to your areas, like there's been a lot of stuff talking about trawling and just cleaning the bottom of the oceans of fish, and it's just an absolute disaster. So those sort of things are important too. But just the lobbing hatred, anger about different people, man. That's just you're drinking from the same well, If you say that this group of people is intolerant and mean, and that gives you the right to be intolerant and mean, you're drinking from the same well. You're no better, right? So if you want to be passionate about things that can really matter, and you're informing people, and you're doing that, but just taking that partisan sort of route, and all these people or if you're this type of person, then you're the problem. That oversimplification, it's absolutely nonsense. So if there are some issues that are passionate about, and you want to follow through with those, then go ahead. But just signing petitions, signing anger just for the sake of doing that because you don't like something, that's I think that's probably one of the issues with why we have so many people who are so sad, so upset, and are feeling a lack of purpose. Do things, get after it. But call that episode 131, and I'll talk to you next time.